Welcome to the Blueprint where the goal is to be whole. I am your host, Charles Irving, and today is day 17 of 40 days of fasting. Today, I just want to share real quick just my priority challenges. Um, I was, well, first and foremost, let me share, I did what I do, woke up 3:15 in the morning, got out of the house at 4, and man, God just kind of blessed, you know, different rides. I was just getting all kind of the best rides all day long. I was like, oh man, this is great. So I ended up reaching my goal really early. I think I finished about 10:15, 10:30, and headed to the gym and went through my semi-normal routine. I was able to lift a considerable amount of weight, which is very interesting doing a fast. I was trying to see if I could, lift the normal weight that I would normally lift. I probably did about 75% of what I would normally lift just because I want to get my body back into that mode. Not necessarily get it back into that mode, but one of the things that happens when you are fasting is you lose body muscle. You lose muscle when you're fasting. And again, I've lost considerable amount of weight, which is a great thing, a considerable amount of fat, which is an even better thing, but I'm losing the muscle. So one of the reasons why I go to the gym is to try and maintain some of that muscle so that when I do go back to eating, I can maintain one, my routine, and two, some of the muscle that I have will be easy to grow back. But yeah, so I did that and it was good. It felt really good. I was probably there for about 45 minutes. After that, my body was like, it wasn't even necessarily my body, it was my mind. Now I was just like, man, I gotta get out of here. I'm tired. And I don't know how to explain it. There's a, you feel the energy loss. Like I can feel it in my stomach. I'm not operating, the energy I'm operating on is not energy that comes from food. It's like I'm operating on my spirit's energy. It's just weird. Now, I know your spirit is more powerful than the body, but when you are not used to operating that way, it doesn't feel like it. So it was interesting. But I came home. I decided to take a nap because it was just like, okay, I kind of worked a little bit harder than I normally did. But the other thing was that, what was it? I don't know if it comes to me. It came back to me and it just left. But I came home, took a nap because I was just, again, it's like, I'm not going to take a 2 hour nap. I was able to take a 1 hour nap because I wanted to make sure that I could go to sleep or at least get some rest when I go to bed at night. And, so I came home and the idea was to stay off social media, which I've, for the last day or two, I think I haven't been on it, which is a good thing. I'm noticing that obviously, the less you're on it, the less you think about it. So I haven't really thought about it, which is a great thing. I'm going to try and continue to stay off of it for the rest of the fast, just to give my mind a breather from just all the different messages and different things that are going on social media. And what I'm trying to do, no, the goal is this: direct my attention and my affection towards the Lord, which has been a challenge. It's been a challenge for me for a very long time. And I just, I realized, like, when I look back, it's like, man, this has been really tough I've been walking with the Lord for 25 years, but when it comes to my relationship with Him in terms of trust, that has been a 25-year journey. Now, God has blessed me. He has done things for me, and I'm going to always do what the Lord desires for me to do. But it's been a challenge with just the concept of trying to have a relationship with God the same way you would have a relationship with your best friend or your spouse or someone in your family, someone you see all the time, where you get to connect with them, you get to laugh with them, you get to joke with them, you get to learn about them through everyday life so that you can see, understand, and know who they are, meaning what they stand for, what they stand against, but not just what they stand for and stand against, but why. Now, we will never know all that it is needed to know about God, right? He is inexhaustible, right? But what I believe is God is like, yeah, but you can know all you need to know so that you know me in terms of my character, in terms of what I stand for and what I don't stand for, and how that influences who you are and how you function in everyday life. And I've shared before, the biggest challenge for me is just being distracted. My affections are not fully for God. As you know, if God was like, go do X, Y, and Z, like a servant, I would just go do it. And even as a son who's just being obedient, not just go do it. But I'm not looking to, I'm not really, it's not that I'm not looking, it's just that I have competing desires. There it is. Like, I love the Lord. I want to do what the Lord wills, but I have competing desires, and keeps me, or hinders, I won't say it keeps me, it hinders my ability to just sit and be with the Lord on a frequently consistent basis. Meaning, consistency is about what you do. Frequency is about how often you do it. Things like, reading my word, worship, prayer. These three things are staple to any mature believer and their relationship with God. The key is about really being able to hear from him. Now, I'm used to, getting a sense of what the Lord is saying to me, or through some download that he's given to me about me, because like I said, the thing that's most important to me is not changing the world, it's changing me, and thus changing my world. Everyone wants to change the world, but they don't want to change. And as the Bible says, the one who can control himself is greater than the one who takes a city. So that's always more important to me than going out trying to change everybody else's life, and I can't change my own. You can help everybody else get to the prize, but you forfeit the prize because you're not where you're supposed to be. So as I was trying to work on a segment of this program, like I said before, it's been a challenge. Trying to reverse engineer a lot of the stuff that I've done that's helped me to improve who I am in terms of my identity, in terms of my sense of responsibility. I used to be someone that was really irresponsible. And what I mean by that is not that I would just go out and do stupid stuff. I wasn't doing that. I just wasn't taking responsibility for things. I wasn't taking ownership for situations and circumstances that I had control over, and thus I was kind of letting life just happen. And God had to work with me on that because I didn't have nobody in my no adult who really took time and interest to walk alongside me and help me mature and develop. So a lot of the stuff that I've learned in life, I've had to learn on my own, and that's made things really difficult. It's really hard when you don't have somebody who you trust to come alongside you and teach you what you don't know. That was my parents' job, and they couldn't do it. One, because they were on drugs and alcohol. It was my grandmother's job because she took the responsibility of raising me, but she didn't know how to, train me. She didn't even know that was a thing that you needed to do. In my estimation, most African Americans don't train their children. They teach and they tell. They don't train. So I had to learn a lot of stuff by doing things over and over again, making minor tweaks as I learned, what didn't work. And it's like, okay, that didn't work, but this part did. So I got to do this. But how do I fix? And I just had to go through that process. Well, when it comes to becoming whole, that's the process that the Lord is telling me he wants me to help men go through. But I got to reverse engineer all the things that I had done and things that I had learned and the tips and techniques that I could pull from that to help men go through this process, because we feel stuck. We feel like other people in situations and circumstances have more control over our lives than we do. And I talked about this the other day. turning this into a program, you start thinking about money and you start thinking about, things that you can do in terms of your situation and circumstances, getting out of debt, yada, yada. You start thinking about being able to take care of a family. You start thinking about, how you can bless, different people and things of that nature. And all of that's good. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But what was happening for me, and this is why I want to talk about, my priority challenges, is that I was going to God in this time of fasting, right? In this context of fasting, this is about drawing near unto the Lord and hearing what he has to say about not just, whatever you think is important, but what is important to him, what's on his mind and heart. And over the last 3 weeks, I haven't necessarily been doing that. It has come to mind and I've been doing it, days here and days there, but it hasn't been, like I said, frequently consistent in terms of me devoting time to just sit. And it's because of the distractions of the challenges that I'm facing, the distractions of what I want, the distractions of the failures that I've had that I'm trying to use success to make up for. And what I'm learning right now is I had to decide about 15, 20 minutes ago, like I was praying, I said, Lord, I could see I'm making what you want me to do more important than you. Like I'm devoting time to sit and think about this program, but I'm not devoting time to sit and come before you to hear what you have to say, to read your word and just sit with you and allow you to teach me about you. I'm more interested in program than I am in who you are. And that's just not what I desire. And I struggle in that area. I struggle with sitting still. I struggle with being in one place, doing one thing for a long period of time. I've always struggled in that. And it's, I know his grace is sufficient and his strength is made, perfect in my weakness, but it is something that I'm recognizing that I don't want to be I don't want to be a Solomon. And what do I mean by that? Solomon was the wisest man in the world, did great things and then was led astray. With all the wisdom he had, he was still led astray. And it's like, how does that happen? He doesn't, it's just like, I don't want to be that. How does the Lord bless you so much? And then you are able to be led astray after, knowing him. And, when I look at that story, it talks about how he was led astray as he got older. When you get older, stuff doesn't seem to matter as much. And I want to set a foundation where knowing God is the priority, not just a priority. And there's a vast difference. I have a diagram that helped me. He showed me what that would look like in a diagram. And it was just so powerful because if you think about a donut, right? And let's say that donut has different spaces on it where, you might have business, you might have family, you might have friends, you might have your personal development. Let's say faith, family, finances, and your fitness, right? To cover, generally the areas of our lives. And you have those different spaces. You have one at the top, one at the bottom, one on the left, one on the right. And in the center, let's say that donut is, a real thin circle with those things, the words faith, family, finance, and fitness going around it. And then at the center, there's God. And then you have another diagram where there's let's say a pie, right? A pizza pie. And you have slices where you have, 4, 5, 6 slices. Again, faith, family, finance, fitness, whatever else you want to put on there, to signify the makeup of your life. And one of those slices is God. The interesting thing about this diagram, what God showed me, is that the piece where God is doesn't touch the other pieces. It has no impact on the other pieces. But when you look at the donut shape diagram and you have God in the middle and he's the circle in that middle, it touches every aspect of your life. And the point is that God, knowing God and Jesus Christ in whom he sent, I think this is John 17 somewhere, maybe 5, where it talks about what is eternal life is knowing God and Jesus Christ in whom he sent. And that was where I got this concept of making God the priority and not just a priority. It's about knowing him so much and so well that you trust him, and that, you know, everything that you do is revolving around his will. And that's hard to do when you have these desires. And there's nothing wrong with having the desires. The Lord said, I will give you the desires of your heart. Now, as long as those desires are in the center of his will. And I think, you know, having a nice car, family, how all that stuff is within the will of the Lord. Like, that's not even an issue. The issue that I'm finding is when you want it. And God is like, everything is good in his timing. There's a time for everything under the sun. And, you know, there is a time to work on your program and all these different things, but you're doing a fast, and that fast is to draw closer to me so that I prepare you for what it is that I'm going to call, what I'm bringing you to, so that you can do my will through that thing, so that you can do all that I have in my heart and mind to do. And the best way for me to do that is to transform your heart and mind into mine. Let this mind that be in Christ also be in you. So spending time in your word, spending time with me in prayer, spending time worshiping, all of that transforms your heart and mind into the likeness of my son. So that when you go into any situation and circumstance, you're automatically going to do the will of the Lord because you are influenced by the Spirit of God that is living in you, that is fueled by the Word of God that you've learned by spending time with God in His Word, in worship, and in prayer. So I'm looking at that. I'm recognizing that that's going to be another challenge that I have to face. Not another challenge that I have to face. It's another challenge that I'm facing throughout this time. The ability to train myself little by little, right? Because the word says, he who gathers little by little will make it grow. So training myself little by little on a daily basis. Okay, let's take 5, 10, 15. I probably have a little bit more stamina than that. So let's take 20 minutes. Sit 20 minutes and just read, right? 20 minutes and just worship. 20 minutes and just pray. That's an hour right there. You can do that 3 times a day. When you look in the Bible, you know, one of the things that I notice is that when we look at these different prayers, these people weren't praying for long periods of time. It's like I can read their prayer in like 5 minutes. So the concept, and Jesus even said, don't come to me praying these long prayers. I already know what you need, right? I don't need you to do all that. I already know. So for me, prayer is not necessarily me going to God and asking about or asking for stuff, unless it's me trying to understand something. It's me really going to him and inquiring, like, I don't understand this. Asking, you know, for help, or, you know, like a father and a son, and building that relationship. But just being more structured, and the time that I spend with the Lord has been a challenge. And I'm learning that in order for me, I have to take a more intentional initiation to start the routine so that it becomes a natural part of my structure in terms of how I go about my day, so that when I'm in a different space and different place financially and relationally. Because when you have, I'm a single man, I live by myself. Right now, I'm afforded the opportunity to lay the groundwork, the foundational work in regards to how I want to live my life, irrespective of anybody else. My wife, my children, friends, family, whatever. How do I structure my days so that I am making God the priority and not just a priority? Because when people come into your life, you now can revolve them around the center of your life, which is God, rather than put them at the center of your life and then trying to find spots and spaces for God. And it's like, no, that's not how we're doing this. So training myself to lay a more clear structure in regards to my prayer time, my reading time, my worship time with the Lord, so that it is a part of what I naturally do. So much so that when I'm not doing it, I feel uncomfortable. I feel like I didn't make my bed. Like, I trained myself to make my bed every day. It wasn't something that I did. And it was just like, nope, just make your bed. And now it is so part of what I do that I don't leave my house without, it's a part of my routine. This concept of training is core to everything that I believe. And the major reason is because nobody was there to train me. And I had to train myself and recognize, like, oh, this is why things are so difficult for me. I didn't have a trainer at home. Nobody trained me in how to ride a bike. I had to learn that on my own. Nobody trained me to drive a car. I had to learn how to drive a car on my own. Nobody trained me how to do homework or things of that nature or to study. I had to learn all of that on my own. I got no training as far as I can remember from anybody. No one trained me how to cook. I had to watch. I just looked and watched and looked and just, okay, I'm breaking down everything that someone is doing. And I had to learn it on my own. And the way again, now I got to go to practice. Take what I saw and try to do it. Take what I saw and try to do it. Take what I saw and try to do it and make minor tweaks. And I do this process called, and it's an instinctive thing. It's not something that I'm consciously doing, but I call it laughing at yourself. It's LAFF, learn, apply, feedback, future adjustments. What did you learn? How did you apply what you learned? What feedback did you get when you applied what you learned? And what future adjustments do you need to make? I'm going through that all the time at any given moment. So, just sharing stuff like that with different people who are looking to grow, develop, trying to get unstuck, trying to reposition themselves for more, trying to be able to enjoy life at peace with yourself. Again, ultimately trying to be whole. But again, the priority, that is the work that I've been assigned to do. That's the work that God has called me to do. But the foundation of all that I'm here for is to worship the Lord. That's it. He created me to worship him and to know him, and not just know about him, but to know him, to take his word, to read his word, learn about him, but then to live life in such a way so that I get to experience him in the life that I live according to his word, so that he can take me from a place of confidence in what I've read into conviction because of what I experience. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. That's a challenge that I have to work on, that I'm working on as I go through this fast. And again, beyond this fast, this is just a laying of the foundation. And periodically, if I can remember, I'll share from those experiences. It's sobering to know that you do love the Lord, but you have competing desires. Yeah, the desires that you have are not sinful. There's nothing wrong with them, but they're getting in the way of how you spend your time. And God has called you to something great, and he needs you to spend time with him so that you can do it, or rather he can do it through you, without this thing that he's called you to do becoming more important than him. Because once you become successful in something, there's accolades, there's praise, and people they want your time. And you can develop pride. You can develop a sense of arrogance. You can develop a sense of, I did this because you went through the pain of whatever it is that you had to go through to get to where you're going. And it's like, the Lord is like, nah, bro, don't do that. Don't ever do that. So to remain clear-minded, sober-minded, and walk in humility before the Lord, I'm, again, little by little, restructuring how I do what I do. And it's going to be difficult because structure is hard for me. I like structure. I need it. It is very beneficial, but strict structure, I cannot. I feel like I'm in prison. So it's structure with flexibility. And I know that I need that. And the Lord is like, no, that's what you need. That's how I made you. You need structure with flexibility. So it's not necessarily about being super strict, but I do need to have some structure and be able to force myself on some level to just sit and be still and, read and block out all the noise in order to, what we talked about the other day, diminish these desires that are competing for my time and attention. So I just wanted to share that with you. I said that I would share, some of the spiritual things that I'm discovering about myself. And yeah, don't make what you're doing more important than who you're serving. And as a believer in the Lord, you serve him and you are to serve him wholeheartedly. And what that looks like is really just having a heart posture. It's like, nah, these things are more important. And you can desire, right? You can desire to do those things, but being able to put that stuff aside in order to give your attention, your time, and your energy to the Lord with the help of the Lord. There have been moments where I've been able to do that, but it's been a challenge because the desire is so great that even when I sit down, my mind is still thinking about the thing that I want to do. And what I'm the goal is to get to a place where I can have the desire, but when I sit and I focus, all of it gets blocked out and the Lord can have my full attention and affection for what's on his heart and mind. And then and only then will I have truly, in my estimation, made God the priority and not just a priority. So I just wanted to share that with you. I hope it's been a blessing to you. Evaluate yourself and see, have I made what God has called me to do more important than the God that I serve? We have a tendency to worship the gift rather than the gift giver. And I never want to be out of line with the Lord. He's done too much and he's helping me through too much for me to do that. So, and just really wanting to know him. I just really want to know him more so that my life is not predicated on whatever situation and circumstance I find myself in, because my hope, my desires are found and fulfilled in and through him. And I just trust that. And because I love him so much, that when he doesn't give me what it is that I desire, I'm okay with it, because what he desires is good. And therefore he's doing good for me. And anybody that's going to do good for you, you got to love them. They care about you. So that's all I got for you guys today. As always, don't try to change the world. Instead, build you and your world will transform. Until next time, peace.